Hello. I'm very happy to be here today, speaking in English. Last time I was in Tokyo, I was doing a concert, and I tried to do some of the songs and stories in Japanese. After the first concert, the promoter came backstage and said, "Excuse me, you seem to speak quite clearly in English, but it's curious, in Japanese you have, pardon me, a slight stutter." And this really surprised me because I had spent hours listening to a taped translation of the songs, and I had learned them very carefully by ear. As it turned out, the man who had recorded the tape for me had a slight stutter, and I had copied every mistake, every hesitation. For example, itoku ga kotoba wa uchu kara nobirishita. Today, I'll be talking about language and television and music, but I should warn you that I'll also be talking a lot about myself. And that's because I recently celebrated my 40th birthday, and I'm still not sure whether I feel more like 4 10-year-olds or 10 4-year-olds, but I'm still trying to sort it out. Anyway, I'd like to begin with a short song that has no words, and it's for a short person, so to get short. Basically, my work is storytelling, the world's most ancient art form. And as a narrator, I've used a lot of different voices in order to escape my own perspective. And they are audio masks. And I find that if I sound
like this, I have different things to say. I think of this as a kind of voice of authority, the voice of a shoe salesman, or of a guy who's trying to sell you an insurance policy you don't want or need. He's a bit insecure, but cheerful, not very bright, but quite pompous. Now, it's only recently that I realized that this guy is based on my first ideas about who men were. When I was a kid, my father would come into my room when I was sick or sad, and he'd try to cheer me up by telling stories and doing little dances and singing songs. And I thought, how charming. Men are these carefree species, so light-hearted, so free. The women, on the other hand, were the real authority figures, always saying things like, read this book, eat this dinner. And the men didn't seem to have a care in the world. Now, it took me a long time to realize that this wasn't necessarily the way things were in the real world. But while I was working with this filter, I thought, gee, I wonder what this guy looks like. So I cloned myself on video through the ADO, and I came up with my male alter ego, a guy who's 3 feet tall with size 1 shoes. Now, some people have insisted that this character is a dwarf that I hired to impersonate me. Actually, he is a video illusion, and it's me behind the mask. Now here he is in a 1986 videotape called What You Mean We.
So, you've been pretty busy for a multimedia performance artist. Let's see, I hear you make records, films, books, and you've been on the road a lot too, haven't you?
Yeah, actually I just got back from a concert tour, Japan and Europe, Australia. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And yeah, I'll be making another record soon, but lately I've been so busy doing press,
Mm-hmm.
you know, interviews
Mm-hmm.
and photo sessions
Mm-hmm.
and talk shows like this one that, you know, I don't have the time anymore to do the actual work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you can't be in two places at once.
Right. I mean, you wish there was another you.
Yeah.
So I talked to a design team about it, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, cloning is still in very early stages, but I think we did a pretty good job, and we were dealing with duplicating speech and a certain musical ability and logic.
Interesting.
And a few things came out sort of strange, but then I think it's always strange to see some kind of reflection of yourself. And anyway, we do work together, and sometimes he's on his own, but I think it's working out really well, don't you?
Well, I write the music, and it's pretty interesting work, really. She does most of the words.
Well, I mean, you've been writing.
Well, some.
No, I mean, it's been really good. It really has been good.
Well, most of the time I'm not really sure what I'm writing about, but I keep I keep busy, you know. I keep writing.
And I mean, eventually you're going to be doing even more things. Actually, I didn't realize the time. Look, I've got to get to a photo session, so I've really got to go. Listen, can you just take over for me? Because great. Thanks a lot. Thanks. Great. I'm really sorry.
This phrase, by the way, "what you mean we," was first used by the TV cowboy hero, the Lone Ranger, and his partner was an Indian scout named Tonto. Now, Tonto did all the dangerous work, while the Lone Ranger got all the credit. So when the Lone Ranger said, "let's sneak up on those outlaws and tie them up," Tonto knew that he would be doing it alone. So he always said, "what you mean we, kimosabe." Now here is a little bit about how this "what you mean we" was made.
A few things came out sort of
It was
strange, but I
split
think it's
screen,
always strange to see some
the
kind
way
of
Doris Day
reflection
and
of
Rock Hudson used to
yourself.
work.
Anyway, we do
And
work
I just sat
together,
there
and, sometimes
talking
he's
to myself,
on his own, but I think it's
imagining
working out
what my
really
partner
well.
was saying.
Don't you?
It's like when you're really mad at someone and you go for a walk and talk to yourself, and you imagine the other person there, but you give yourself all the good
Well,
lines, and your
you've been
imaginary
writing.
partner the bad lines. So, of course, you win every
No, it's
argument.
been really good. It's been really good.
Then we're going to look at an unprocessed version of the clone. Here he is. Now, it was strange to direct this tape.
Most of the time I'm not
because
really,
nobody
I'm not
wanted
really
to
sure what
talk
I'm
to me
writing about,
while I looked
but
like that.
I keep.
It was like being at
I
a
keep busy,
cocktail
you know.
party
I keep writing.
where
writing.
people don't look you in the eye, and they're always kind of looking over your shoulder to find somebody better to talk to. They just really could not relate to the mustache. Next, we're going to look at 3 one-minute pieces. I think you saw the first one before. We'll show it to you again anyway. And in which the clone and I co-hosted a series of artists' videotapes from a show called Live from Off Center.
You know, ever since I had this picture taken of myself with this cardboard cutout of Ron Reagan, I actually feel like I know the guy. Look at us here. We're obviously pals. Now they say the camera never lies. Actually, the camera is a great liar. But hey, reality is pretty boring, right? For example, remember that vacation you took last summer? Pretty boring, right? But take out that scrapbook and leaf through it, and it looks like you're a couple of happy tourists having a wonderful time. The snaps make it more interesting, more compact.
More real.
Now, one of the most famous moments in film history is the Odessa Steps sequence in Eisenstein's battleship Potemkin. Now, in fact, according to the history books, there never actually was a massacre on the Odessa Steps. So what was Eisenstein doing? He was making it more interesting, more compact, more coherent, more real. So to sum it up, tourists take pictures to prove they were there. Filmmakers make movies because they were never there.
Stay tuned for Zbigniew Rybczynski's Steps. No, it's like this. Choreography is the geography of dance. Look, choreography, C, equals G, dance. Choreography is the landscape of dance. It's the map. It's how you get from A to B.
Well, now that's very confusing. Now, where exactly is the dancer in here?
But don't you see? I mean, that's just the point. You can't tell the dancer from the dance. I mean, it's speed, it's velocity, it's movement, you know? It's like Steve Martin said, talking about music is like dancing about architecture. Now, you can't dance about architecture, now, can you?
Well, what about the square dance?
I mean, what about the square dance?
Well, a square dance is a dance about a barn.
Well, a barn is a building. It's hardly architecture.
Well, how about if I do something like This.
See? That's what I'm trying to say. Now, if I draw this, it's got scale, right? And if I do this, it's what?
It's geography.
Okay, Laurie, let's try this one again. You're over by the window. Typical day. You're writing down a melody, so just try to make bigger gestures when you're jotting those notes down.
And like this?
Yeah, great, great.
Okay, well, you know, actually, when I write music, I don't really write it down. I play it, and then the computer transcribes it. Play it on the keyboard.
Just
You know.
don't worry. We'll explain all that in the voiceover later. This is just to give people a general idea.
Oh,
Clone, you're over there.
Where? Back here?
Hey, let's get a little bit more light here. Focus in on those drums. Okay, now Clone, you're
Yep.
working on the rhythm track.
What?
Right. Now boom down just a little bit more, okay? Okay?
Back here?
And Laurie,
Yeah.
look a little bit more like you're just thinking of it right now, okay? Natural, okay?
Right.
Speed.
Yeah, okay.
Action. Cut. That's great. Now, Clone, you're done working and you're just relaxing. So come over here, pick up the TV program guide and say, gee, I wonder what's on TV tonight. And Laurie,
What?
Yeah.
over here, please.
Here?
You say, yeah, I wonder. Clone, you say, let me check, okay?
Okay.
Action.
Gee, I wonder what's on TV tonight.
Yeah. I wonder.
Let me check. Operation X with Mitchell Kriegman and Teddy Dibble.
Now, I invented this character partly as a reaction to a film I made called Home of the Brave. It was a concert film which I directed and also starred in. Now, this turned out to be a very schizophrenic situation. In a lot of films, there's a power struggle between the director and the star. But since I was both, I thought it wouldn't be a problem. I thought I can have enough distance to be a good director and say, that's a good performance, that's not good, cut that, lengthen that. But after a few months of sitting in the editing room day after day, looking at pictures of myself, we stopped on a certain freeze frame of my face, and I thought, if I ever see this face again, I'm going to shoot myself. The simple truth is that you should never take that many pictures of yourself, and if you do, you should not sit around for months staring at them. It's very bad karma. Now, one night during the editing, I had a dream about this, and it was a typical dream. You know, suddenly your long-dead grandmother walks in the door, and next you fall off a cliff, and that kind of thing. A whole series of interlocking plots and themes kind of carelessly jump cut together. Now, in most dreams, I'm a somewhat naive dolt, kind of wandering in and out of the subplots, not really understanding them. But in this dream, I suddenly looked down, and just for an instant, I saw myself way below, sitting at a desk, writing the dream, and making up these complex plots for this dolt-like dreamer to wander through. Now, intellectually, I believe in Jung's theory of the self as a three-story construction, but I had never seen it physically, almost architecturally in action. Of course, it was like the relationship of director to star, but it was also like what happens to everybody when they invent a credible and more or less consistent personality, and then they just sort of live it out. And it's only when you do something that's really out of character, impulsively jump into a fountain on your way to work, or have a sudden barking fit while you're waiting for the bus, that you realize how tightly scripted your plan really is. And you start to ask, who wrote this anyway? Who wrote these rules? Now, much of the work that I've done as an artist has been the creation of various surrogates. For me, the violin is the perfect alter ego. It's the instrument closest to the human voice, the human female voice, and I've spent a lot of time trying to teach it to talk. I also like it because it's a romantic 19th century instrument, and because you can hold it. And keyboards are just too big. Besides, playing keyboards reminds me too much of driving a car. You sit there with this big dashboard and with your feet on the pedals, and there's a very aggressive, head-on relationship with the audience. This is one of the first violins I designed. It has a speaker inside, which runs to a cassette deck, so it's self-playing, or you can play along with it live. This is the viophonograph, at midnight, I guess. It has a battery-powered turntable mounted on the body and a stereo needle attached to the bow. And it's played by lowering the arm like the arm of a record player. And the records I cut for it were one sustained note per band. And actually, it sounds really terrible. This is the next one, the tape bow violin. And there's a playback head from a Revox tape recorder mounted where the bridge would be. And on the bow, instead of horsehair, there's a strip of pre-recorded audio tape, so that as you move the bow back and forth, sound is produced. At first, I used this instrument to play with the relationship of sight and sound. So what you see is a string quartet in tuxedos, and what you hear is saxophones and drums and barking dogs. But later, because the bow is drawn both ways, I got interested in backwards sounds. Now in English, words that spell something forwards and also backwards are called palindromes. For example, God, spelled backwards, is always dog. But with audio palindromes, it's very hard to predict what something will be backwards. So that say is yes, no is one, mean is name. So I made a lot of songs that could be played both ways. The next violin was digital, and it was interfaced with the synclavier and was capable of playing any sound stored in the system. In the song Smoke Rings, the violin is playing something that sounds like a big storm. Actually, this sound was made by a computer crashing. And here it is from Home of the Brave. Home of the Brave begins with a dance in which the performers wear robotic masks. It's an homage to the work of the Bauhaus artist Oskar Schlemmer, who made some very strange dances in the 20s and 30s. And I had seen a reconstruction by Deborah McCall of one of his works in New York. Now, one of my favorite quotes, which you heard earlier, is by Steve Martin, and it's talking about music is like dancing about architecture. Now, I never really thought it was possible to dance about architecture until I saw these Schlemmer works. In one dance, the performers wear kind of robot costumes and move large objects around the stage, a cube, a pyramid, and a cone. And they argue about the placement exactly the way people do when they are trying to decide So what should our buildings look like? How big should they be? Where should we put the door? And Schlemmer was a great animator. And he had a very childlike sense of proportion. Now I'm talking really about the way children draw houses. Everything is more or less to scale. The windows, the doors, the driveway, except that there is a giant doorknob. Because children know that the most important thing about a house is how do you get in and how do you get out. Now, the performance of the Schlemmer work was introduced by a 90-year-old man, Andreas Weininger, who used to play trombone in the Bauhaus band. And he began the evening by saying, "Good evening, I'm from the 19th century." And everybody said, "Ooh." And it was Saturday night, and he said, "You know, in the 19th century, we also had Saturday night. And let me tell you what we did." And he began to describe these completely crazy Bauhaus events. But the wonderful thing was that here was this dance from 50 years ago that was really exciting and fresh. And for artists in New York who think that the only exciting things happened in the last maybe 5 minutes, it was really a revelation. And it gave people a sense of continuity. Now, animation has taken several forms in my own work, and this is a disappearing dance from Sharky's day.
Sharky says, all of life comes from some strange lagoon. Rises up, it bucks up to its full height from a boggy swamp on a foggy night. It creeps into your house, it's light. I turn around, it's fear. I turn around again, it's love. Nobody knows me, nobody knows my name.
And this is an attempt at animation. Actually, I drew this guy because I had broken my knee and I was forced to stay off my feet for a while. And I missed running so much that I decided to draw someone running. So I tried to imagine it, but this is no Muybridge. When I got it back from the lab, I was shocked at what a poor imitation of movement it was. And also there was a lump on his head where my pen had slipped. But as I watched his awkwardness, I began to appreciate it more and more, and I decided to write some music as counterpoint. Have been on a more basic level, making things bigger or smaller than they normally are. This is a pair of glasses with a contact microphone mounted in the bridge, so that when you bang your head, there's a disproportionately loud sound. It's very, very satisfying. The whole body version of this animation is a drum suit, which I designed when I was trying to repair a small drum machine. When I first started to work with electronics, I remember thinking I should really take a year or two off and just learn about some of these things. And I didn't, because I was afraid that at the end of that time, I wouldn't remember why I had wanted to learn it in the first place. So I just try to learn what I need as I go along. And a lot of my work comes from just playing around with equipment, seeing what it will do. And a lot of my work comes from really just playing around with equipment, seeing what it will do. And whenever I get stuck, and I think I'll never have another idea again in my life, I just try to play with material, because your tools teach you things. And you can't always force them to do the sort of arbitrary things that you think up. But everybody who works with material knows this, whether it's wood or paint or words or notes. You have to understand the properties of the stone you're cutting up, because otherwise you touch it wrong and it's in a million pieces on the floor. Anyway, I was trying to fix this drum machine, and it was in pieces, and I realized that the touch-sensitive pads that activate the drums still worked. So I lengthened the cables and built them into a suit. And I put the bass drum over the heart and the snare drum on the knee and the claps and castanets on the hands. And this is also from Home of the Brave. Before we continue, here are a few more audio and visual masks. This is a sound lens I designed so that you walk into a quiet room and only in 1 cubic foot there's loud sound. And the lens works like a camera, but it focuses sound waves instead of light. This is a lens mask. And here are some extra arms. These are some extra arms from a song about bowling and music conducting. And this is from a song called Langue d'Amour. It's a retelling of the Garden of Eden story from the woman's point of view. And it's kind of one-armed puppet show. And the part of the snake is played by the arm wearing the glove. This was originally my Halloween costume. I've done a lot of one-armed songs because basically I can only really play keyboards with one hand. And that leaves the other free to make contact with technicians during a live performance. So that this means follow spot up, and this means monitor mixer down, and eventually the technicians really didn't need these cues. But I was so used to giving them that they evolved into another kind of sign language, as in, "Oh, Superman." Oh, Superman. Oh, John. Oh, Mom and Dad. Mom and Dad. Hi. I'm not home right now. Or they were used to conduct the music to find the difficult things about making this movie was the audience. Because it was a concert film, there were actually 2 audiences. The people who came to the concert and the people who came to the movie of the concert. Now this was just too many people. Sooner or later, though, every artist has to face the question, who am I talking to? Myself, other artists, history, the man on the street. And there is an American writer who says he writes his novels at a desk in front of a window that looks out onto a deep forest. And he says he pictures his readers scampering around through the woods, hiding behind the trees, and occasionally poking their heads out. And he says it helps him to imagine his audience. Television, however, is another story. And of course, there's no audience for television, because an audience is a group of people, and people usually watch TV alone, or maybe with 1 or 2 other people. It's private, like a book, and it's lonely. Now, when people try to describe TV, try to describe a TV audience, they talk about the abstraction of mass media. Now, I never really understood the concept of mass. Who are they, and where are they, and what do they want? I've always thought of mass media as a kind of giant slime mold. I mean, nobody really knows what mass refers to, and the mass itself is incapable of expressing itself. So the method is to keep poking it and probing it and polling it to provoke some kind of reaction. But it just kind of lies there in its petri dish, completely inert. Now, the only people who have decided that they are equipped to speak for this mass is one lone publication, the Happy News newspaper, USA Today, where the headlines are things like, "It's prom time again," or "We're eating more meat this week." I mean, prom time for who and what you mean we are my questions. So you have this medium, television, that's both extremely public and extremely private. And how do these spheres relate? Money is the answer. Because television is not a drug like people say. It is a drug store. The programs are the lures to draw the viewer in to the ads so that he can participate in the true goal of broadcast TV, which is sales. Now that's why the most successful shows are really the evangelical programs, because there's a direct line between the sender and the receiver. The preacher begs for money, and the viewer responds. This is true interactive television. Now, there's a very interesting lawsuit that's in the courts now. The plaintiff is a man who says that whatever he tapes off television belongs to him. He says, look, the minute that signal comes into my house, onto my private property, it is one of two things. It is A, trespassing, or it's B, an unsolicited gift. Now, if it is A, trespassing, it is the obligation of the sender to prove it is not harmful to the receiver's health. This is difficult to do since television is radiation. Granted, RF is an extremely low level of radiation, but it is there. And if it's B, an unsolicited gift, then it belongs to the receiver, who may use it for any purpose. The thing that bothers me most about television is the narcotic effect it has on the viewer. That blank, theta wave expression. Now it has to do, I think, with machines. And a lot of people who work with machines get that way. For example, you go into the bank and say to the teller, so how much money is in my account? And the teller says, I cannot tell you what is in your account. And you say, no, where did you learn to speak English? From a machine is the answer. Actually, one of the best tapes I ever saw was made by an artist in a bank. The artist was too poor to afford video equipment, so he convinced the bank to let him use their video security system. Now, this system automatically shot a few hundred frames an hour, just all in a wide shot, and in the hope of catching bank robbers. And the artist worked on his tape for several days, and every morning he would enter the bank very, very slowly. It took him all day to move to and from the teller's window. So in the finished tape, called Robbery. The artist was seen walking at a normal pace through a crowd of hundreds of frantic customers. Now, I saw a strange article in the New York Times about the effect of TV on kids. The question was, do kids who see violence on television find it easier to pick up a gun and shoot someone, or are they able to separate the fake world of television from the real world? The answer in the paper was, yes, kids can separate TV from real life, except in families where everyone already acts like they are on TV. Now, this was bizarre. I mean, you know what it means. Lots of people learn how to run their lives from watching television. They learn how to walk into a meeting with confidence. They learn how to have a love affair, how to eat, how to stand, and so on. They just copy the people they see on TV. But as a statistic, it seems pretty odd. Then again, maybe it's not, because people have been learning from machines for a while now. And sometimes it's a real confusion about what's alive and what isn't. For example, in a typical TV ad for the phone company, there's a mother and her little daughter. They're sitting around and the phone rings. The mother picks it up and talks for a moment. Then she holds the receiver out to her daughter and says, "Talk to Grandma. Here's Grandma. Here's Grandma." And she's holding a piece of plastic. So, of course, the question is the phone alive? What's alive here and what doesn't have life? It seems like about half the movies being made now are really about this. In these movies, robots and zombies and androids are the stars. And the plots are usually about how to distinguish between the real people and the electronic ones. These movies are actually, of course, about the most dramatic development in human history, the creation of artificial intelligence, the creation of life. One of the most interesting theories about technology now is that technology is actually a new life form that began sometime in the beginning of this century. And the first incarnation of this life form, like most life forms, is as a parasite. But as the parasite gets stronger and stronger, it eventually takes over its host. One of the goals of artificial intelligence teams at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology is to create a machine so intelligent and so sensitive that an actual soul will be attracted to it. The problem, of course, is that souls are really very shy. And even if a soul did manage to get into the circuits, it would be a very tricky thing to test for. But as direct contact between human beings is reduced through television and telecommunications, there's the chance that these new life forms will continue to evolve. Sometimes I think television is just a very clumsy ancestor of this new intelligence. Right now, TV is a box full of pictures. It's an electronic puppet show. But the future of television is bound to the future of the computer. And I guess I'm nervous about what it will say and do when it finally starts to think on its own. Now, actually, I think predictions of the future are sort of pointless. Probability often doesn't have that much to do with the real world. And I used to spend a lot of time as a child trying to think of things that were so unusual and improbable that they could definitely never have happened. I would go out into the woods, into my fort, and light up one of those long oak leaf cigarettes and just think about things. I remember one of them was, a father is about to kill his son by clunking him over the head with a piece of wood. But just before he does it, a bluebird flies down and lands on the son's head, distracting the father and preventing the murder. Now, I was quite proud of this one because I was sure that it had never happened in all of history. And for some reason, that gave me some real satisfaction. And some of the other projects at MIT remind me of this game because they have the same odd relationship to reality. One of the video programs that they would like to write at MIT involves taking old movies, the classics, and redesigning camera angles for various scenes so that you can see what else is going on in the movie behind the scenes. For example, in a Hitchcock thriller, let's say a man and a woman are having cocktails in the living room, and you think the killer might be lurking behind the door listening in. In this video program, you could just access the camera that showed you what was behind the door at that moment. Now, this seems like definitely one of the craziest projects I have ever heard of. First of all, even if you could open this door, you would not see the murderer and the smoking gun. You would see the camera crew. I'd like to get back to mass media for a moment and talk about what happens to art when it tries to use the medium of records and television. Several years ago, I wrote a song called "Oh Superman," and it went through several transfigurations as it traveled through the media. And it begins with a song by Massenet called "Au Souverain." I first heard it sung by a 73-year-old tenor named Charles Holland. Now, Charles was an American opera singer, but because he was black, he couldn't get roles in opera in the United States. So he left for Europe, where he sang for many years. Then, an American conductor, Dennis Russell Davies, also an expatriate, contacted Charles and said, "Look, it's been years since you've been in the States, so it's time to go back. You sing and I'll play." I saw this concert in Berkeley, and it was really wonderful. But Charles was so nervous, he kept dropping the paper and dropping his glasses and singing way, way off pitch. And then he began to sing this song, "Au Souverain," which is basically a prayer for help. So Charles was in the unique and wonderful position of actually singing about what he was feeling. You know, kind of, "Lord, help me now" sort of situation. A few weeks ago, Charles Holland died in Amsterdam at the age of 77. And I'm going to play a tape made by him and Dennis Russell Davies. It's a rehearsal for the concert. This is how he laughed.
Little Massenet.
And I'll translate some of the words as we go. Everything is finished? My beautiful dreams of glory and of happiness have come to nothing. You took my love. Yours is the victory. O Lord, I submit myself to you. O Lord, O Judge, O Father, always hidden, always present. I loved you in the good days and in the dark days. Your picture is in my heart, and for that, I thank you. Then I said, what happened to the rest of the piece? That's pretty good. He's complimenting himself.
You want to hear something in English?
Do you want to hear something in English? And then that was my cue to write something in English. Oh, Superman. Oh, John. Oh, Mom and Dad. Mom and Dad. were several cover versions done by various groups. Here's one in Italian. It's the long beat version with a kind of backbeat we felt inspired to put in. Production idea didn't occur to me. The next one is a breathier slow dance version. Yeah, smoky. And these lines are from the song, are from the United States Postal Service slogan. And I don't think they translated very well. You can dance if you want. The next is the English synth pop version. Sounds like a banjo music. This is very happy music, the happy interpretation. Quite a bass line too. You can dance. Go ahead. Little modulation. Up. And once more. Then there was a French version, a somewhat more nasal interpretation, and sung with quite a lot of feeling.
Bonjour, je ne suis pas chez moi. Mais si vous voulez laisser un message, commencez à parler au top sonore.
Now, they used the same bird sound effect record that I did. You hear him coming in here.
Allô? C'est ta maman. Es-tu là? Tu reviens quand?
Now, here are a couple of interpretations of the instrumental tag of the song. Some of them got quite grand. This is was from a tango version. And this last one, there seems to be some kind of very obscure rhythm going on. You can try to count this. It's like really hard. Now, a couple of months ago, several companies decided to use this song in their ad campaigns. There was an ad for cotton, and you heard ha, 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 and a lot of cotton balls are floating down from the sky. And there were also several ads for cars. Now, these companies don't ask for permission. They just use the music and hope the artist doesn't hear the ad. They just take it. Now, ironically, one of the ads was about theft. Nearly 9 out of 10 of these costly cars do not even provide a security system to help prevent theft. Before you buy another car, be sure you see X.
Nearly 9 out of 10 of these costly cars do not even provide a security system to help prevent theft. Before you buy another car, be sure you see the sterling.
Now, when I pointed out to the company that their ad sounded like my song, they just took it off the air and said, sorry. Now, I don't really have anything against music in commercials. I think 30-second songs can be really exciting. I also like the idea of artists working in the media, of participating in their own culture. Now, when I started to make records, there were people in the avant-garde who thought that that was really selling out. But the politics and economics of the art world, as far as I'm concerned, are really Byzantine. It all depends on trends and money and collectors and parties and stock portfolios and this season's new hot style. And in the commercial record world, there's only one rule. If you sell records, you can make more records. It's breathtakingly simple. And also, you can sell your best work for the price of a cheap meal. It doesn't cost $50,000 and just end up hanging in someone's living room. Now, of course, there are pitfalls in working with records and television. And the worst pitfall is music videos. Now, as an artist, I try to make pictures and sounds talk to each other, not illustrate each other. So I usually work on picture and sound simultaneously so that one doesn't dominate. Or I like to work backwards. For example, there are 2 versions of the song Smoke Rings, one which was recorded live from the film Home of the Brave, and the other produced entirely in a studio. This is the live one, which I prefer because the rhythm is hard to hold on to, as I was showing you before. All of its complexity was ironed out. Very easy to count. Boom. 2. I'm thinking back to when I was a child, way back to when I was a tot, and I was an embryo, tiny speck, just a dot. And there was a Hershey bar in my father's back pocket. So I decided to make a backwards rock video. I used this studio version, which I didn't like, as background music. And it was coming out of the radio in a kitchen scene. And the singer-chef, sang his part against this music, but without listening to it. So it's pretty much in a different key. This is the result from What You Mean We.
Well, I had a dream, and in it I went to a little town. And all the girls in town were named Betty. And they were singing do 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 do. Got it. I'm thinking back to when I was a child. Way back to when I was a tot. When I was an embryo, a tiny speck, just a dot. When I was a Hershey bar in my father's back pocket.
Can I have another glass of water, please? Thank you.
Hey, look, over there. Frank Sinatra sitting in the chair and he's blowing perfect. Smoke rings, doo-doo, up into the air and smoke. Woo-hoo, smoke it, makes the smoke ring. Woo! And every time I hear the smoke ring, I think you're there.
Miss, could you check on my order, please?
A volcano. Any second now. Get the blanket from the bedroom. You can go walking once again down in the bayou where our people first began. Ooh, I'm gonna follow you out in the swamps and in the town, down under the boardwalk, track you down.
Miss, this has nothing to do with what I ordered. I ordered a cheeseburger and a Coke.
A few years ago, I got a letter from some nuns in a Benedictine convent in Minnesota. They asked me to come out for a week and do some seminars on language. They had gotten my name from a list in Washington from a brochure that described my work as deals with the spiritual issues of our time, undoubtedly a blurb I had written myself. But because of this, and also because men were not allowed, they asked me to come out. It was the largest Benedictine convent in the world, spread out over many acres where they grew crops. And my room at the convent was really spare. It was a single bed with a rough wooden cross hanging over it, and that was it. Every morning at exactly 5 a.m., there was a tiny tapping at the door, and I jumped out of bed and ran to the door, but I was never in time to see who was there. And there was always this tiny cup of orange juice outside the door in a methadone-style cup, perfectly placed so that the door would just miss knocking it over when it opened. Now, the Benedictines are farmer intellectuals, hearty and gruff, and their voices are usually quite businesslike, except when they pray. As soon as I got there, they gave a party for me in the basement of a pizza parlor, and it was one of those places with the spray-on stalactite decorations hanging from the ceiling. It was underneath a bowling alley, and my most vivid memory is sitting around the table praying over the pizza while these heavy bowling balls are rumbling down the lanes overhead, making all the stalactites sort of tremble. The first thing I noticed was that when they prayed, their voices shot up about an octave. Dear Father in heaven. Now I felt it would be presumptuous of me to talk about this, but I started to plan my presentation anyway about women's voices and pitch and asking for things. But it was odd. Every time I set a time for the seminar, there was some reason to postpone it. The potatoes had to be dug up, or a busload of old people would appear out of nowhere and have to be shown around. So I never actually did the seminar. But I spent a lot of time there walking around the grounds and looking at all the crops, which were all labeled. And there was also a very neatly laid out cemetery. Hundreds of identical white crosses in rows, and they were labeled Maria, Teresa, Maria Teresa, Teresa Maria. The only sadder cemetery I saw was last summer in Switzerland, and I was dragged there by a Hermann Hesse fanatic, a very sincere Swede who had never recovered from reading Siddhartha. And one hot August morning, when the sky was white, we made a pilgrimage to the cemetery, and we brought a lot of flowers, and we finally found his grave. And it was marked with a huge fir tree and a mammoth stone that said, Hesse, in huge Helvetica bold letters. And it looked really more like a marquee than a tombstone. And around the corner was this tiny stone for his wife, Nina. And on it was one word, Ausländer, foreigner. This made me so sad and so mad that I was sorry I had brought the flowers. Anyway, I decided to leave the flowers along with a very mean note. And it read, even though you're not my favorite writer by a long shot, I leave these flowers on your resting spot. What Fassbinder film is it? The one-armed man comes into the flower shop and says, what flower expresses? Days go by, and they just keep going by endlessly, pulling you into the future. Days go by endlessly, endlessly pulling you into the future. And the florist says, white lily. I'd like to end by showing one more tape. It's a song about the future called Progress, sung by my alter ego from What You Mean We.
place is a mess. Let's see, gotta work on that song. Oh, sure. Okay, I think that Rocky Rambo thing is pretty good. What do you think?
It's okay.
Or do you think it's too, Rocky, Rambo, Rocky, Dumbo, Bambi, similar? Do you think it's too, similar?
Too similar? I mean, how about Hansel and Gretel? You're right about that one,
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. How's that tempo?
Fine.
Okay, get some chords. What do you think of these chords?
Fine.
You think we should get some ants for the ant farm?
You know, you really smoke too much. I mean, way too much. And you know, we've got to get this done by the benefit tonight.
What you mean, we? Okay, let's see. Hansel and Gretel are alive and well, and they're living in Berlin. She is a cocktail waitress. He had a part in a Fassbinder film, and they sit around at night now, drinking schnapps and gin, and she says, Hansel, you're really bringing me down. And he says, Gretel, you can really be a bitch. He says, I've wasted my life on a stupid legend, when my one and only love was the wicked witch. Last night I woke up and I had that dream again, the one where I'm trying to find the door. I'm trying to get in, but all the hinges are smashed. They're in pieces on the floor, and all the keys are bent, still bent from the dream before, still bent from the dream before. She said, what is history? And he said, history is an angel being blown backwards into the future,
He said history is a pile of debris, and the angel wants to go back and fix things, to repair the things that have been broken. But there is a storm blowing from paradise, and the storm keeps blowing the angel backwards into the future. And this storm is called progress.
Ooh. Hello. Hey, Dad. What do you mean we? Hello. 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 Hold a second. It's for you. Who is it? The benefit. She's not here. Can I take a message? Right. Yeah. Benefits canceled. Okay, I'll be sure to tell her. Canceled. What does she care? Canceled? I can write my own movie. Let her write the music for a change. Couple of guys. The Dark Knight.
Stand by. You're on the air. Buenas noches, señores y señoras.
Thank you very much, and buenas noches.
Already paid for this. Listen to my heartbeat.